sort of the outdoor patio space at 432 Park Avenue, which, as we know, is one of the most luxurious and sought-after buildings in New York City. This is I would say, the first marker of Billionaires Row on the east side, and then we continue over onto the west side, ending with Central Park Tower and 220 Central Park South. Let's jump right into it. Let's talk about the financial markets, starting off with the major equity indices. Today was an amazing day for equities. A rip-roaring day on Wall Street. The S&P 500 closed up about 36 points, closing at a brand new all-time record high for the S&P, 4,927. It's wild because we are knocking on the door 5,000, that big round 5,000 number for the S&P 500. Let me just shift gears here for a minute. Computer's acting up because it's so cold. But new all-time record highs for the market. Take a look at the Dow 30, the Dow Jones Industrial Average, ticker symbol DJI. Also hitting a brand new all-time record high for the day. Well, my internet's acting up. Closing at 38,333 for the Dow. Brand new all-time record highs there. And then last but not least, the very high beta NASDAQ 100 closing just shy of a new all-time record high, but up 1% on the day at 17,596. Now, we have a lot to talk about. This is the heart of earnings season. Now, tomorrow, I'm going to be watching two companies in particular, and we're going to be doing a deep dive into their earnings reports. So Alphabet, ticker symbol GOOGL, or Google, will be reporting earnings tomorrow, as well as Microsoft, ticker symbol MSFT. Now, if you look at a chart of Microsoft, we hit fresh new all-time record highs today. They have earnings tomorrow. The stock is running well into earnings. And I think we're going to get a good report from both Google and Microsoft. But today, we had Supermicro Computer, ticker symbol SMCI, reporting their quarterly earnings. Absolutely blew it out of the water. Now, on the stream, we oftentimes talk about this concept of a beat and raise earnings report, and how we want to identify companies and stocks that consistently not only beat earnings expectations but are raising forward guidance. We talked about a lot of the studies of beat and raise quarters. If you could sit through at least 6 beat and raise quarters, that stock will on average go up 400+%. So we'll be doing a deep dive into Supermicro Computer's earnings report. Again, if you want to go to the investor relations page, you can just go to Supermicro Computer's website, click their investor relations page, and you can download the earnings deck for free and follow along tonight. They reported about $5.59 worth of EPS. Analysts on Wall Street were expecting $5.05 worth of EPS. In terms of the top line revenue growth, they reported $3.66 billion worth of revenue. Analysts on Wall Street were expecting only $2.8 billion worth of top line. So absolutely smashing expectations on both the bottom line in terms of EPS, but also crushing top line revenue growth as well. Year over year earnings were up 71%, and sales or revenue was up 103%. Now, the icing on the cake is that not only did they absolutely rip the face off of those numbers, the CEO got on the conference call, and towards the end of the conference call, things were so great at the company, the outlook was so fantastic, and customer demand is so high that they've actually decided to raise forward guidance for the entire fiscal year. So Supermicro Computer's fiscal year ends June 30th. And before, they expected about $10 billion worth of revenue for the entire fiscal year, which is just a great year. They have now raised that forward guidance to $14.3 billion. wild. So that's what we want to look for. We want to look for companies that are consistently not only beating expectations on the top and the bottom line, but raising their forward guidance. That's called a beat and raise. And I think the stock is up 5% after hours. So we'll take a look at that. Also up on the earnings block, not too far away, is our good friend Mark Zuckerberg and Meta, which, by the way, hit a brand new all-time record high today. We're going to be talking about Meta/Facebook tonight and their 2023 year of efficiency and how the stock turned around in a major way. Now, if you remember, Meta hit an all-time record high all the way back in September 7th of 2021. The stock went on to decline 77%. Insane. Then Mark Zuckerberg did a hard clamp down. He named 2023 the year of efficiency, and he took a number of steps in order to cut costs, increase profitability, and grow top-line revenue. And now, about 2 years later, the stock is trading into all-time record highs, and they're reporting earnings very soon. All right, everybody, that's all I got. Just a quick announcement. Last week, we did send out our free investing newsletter, the Behind the Street newsletter, okay? So this Thursday, we are going to be sending out our second issue of the Behind the Street newsletter for the year. So you do not want to miss this. So if you want to receive all of our free equity research, we send it out every other Thursday after the market closes. And last week, we talked about a lot. We talked about some of the true market leaders in the market. We went over some cybersecurity companies like CrowdStrike. We talked about NVIDIA. And we also talked about gaining perspective on the market, as well as a little bit of an outlook on earnings season. So last newsletter, we talked about bank earnings, some interesting trends in terms of higher credit delinquencies on both the consumer side and the corporate side. So again, if you want to receive the newsletter every other Thursday after the market closes, go ahead and scan the QR code on your screen, or you can type !news, NEWS, in the chat, and the Nightbot will drop the link to our Substack. We're going to cover a lot on Thursday. We're going to do a deep dive into Microsoft. We're going to do a deep dive into Alphabet, Supermicro Computer. We're going to talk about the semiconductor space, just how robust have earnings been so far. We'll talk about all that and more on Thursday. But for now, I'm going to go ahead and close up the laptop. We'll go ahead and say hello to everybody in the chat, and we will get the stream started. So thank you all for joining tonight. Whew, huge temperature drop, by the way. I think it's only like 30 degrees out. It's very cold and very windy, so I do apologize in advance for any wind noise we do have in the microphone. Once again, we're starting live outside of 432 Park Avenue, Harry McLeod's building, which is one of the most sought-after Billionaires Row developments in all of New York City, and really all the world too. So Andy is here, says, hey everybody. I see Diana, welcome. The 79 Frank, Joseph Hardaway, Patrice 2020 is here. The one and only Ryan Beck. It's good to see you as always. Hopefully the weather is a lot better in Texas where you are than it is here in New York City. Sharon says, evening Tom, hope it's not too windy tonight. Yeah, I mean, I don't really mind the cold, I think, as you all know. It's just the wind, and I think the wind is going to be howling pretty much all night, so we'll see. We'll see. RB is here, says evening Tom and all from Miami Beach. Hopefully, I may have to take a one-day trip to Miami. I'll tell you guys about it a little bit later. So Wednesday morning, early, I may have to get a 6 o'clock flight out of JFK, head home for 12 hours, and then turn right around. So we'll see what's going to happen. I may be in South Florida on Wednesday. Tug Carter, what's going on? Says, hey Tom, good evening and good start to the week. I appreciate it. The ABX girls here from the Bronx. Welcome, welcome everybody. What a rip-roaring day in the market. We'll talk about that tonight. Otto is here, GG NYC, Carl Roth, Dale, welcome. Mary is here, John Sunderland, Estelle, welcome. Lena, it's good to see everybody. We pretty much got a full house here. Peter says, I think the market is up on anticipated stellar earnings for tech stocks. If many of them miss estimates, expected correction. New money going into retirement funds also goose the rise in stocks. Maybe. Now we're going to talk about a few interesting trends here, right? So there's a company, Super Microcomputer, that is what I like to call one of the true market leaders, or TMLs, of this cycle. It trades under the ticker symbol SMCI. Now, they reported just absolutely unbelievable, earth-shattering earnings today. And I think the stock is up about 5% after hours. Now, there's a lot we can gauge from that, right? I would highly suggest, if you want to sort of follow along with what we're talking about as we're standing here on Park Avenue, if you go to Super Microcomputer's website, you scroll to the bottom of the page and go to their investor relations page, you can look at the earnings deck, right? And that is a major, I would say, an AI play, right? So they supply a lot of the hardware and compute for cloud computing. They work very closely with AMD, NVIDIA, and the like. So it's kind of that analogy we were using before about, you know, maybe a lot of pure play AI startups, right? And there's going to be a lot. They may not all be successful. A lot of them will go to zero. But what won't go to zero, for lack of a better terminology, are the companies that are sort of selling the shovels to the gold miners that want to, you know, travel to California to take advantage of the gold rush, right? Not everybody during the gold rush made a fortune, right, in terms of the miners looking for gold, but the people selling the shovels and the pickaxes made a fortune. So the demand, you know, and it's not only the number that really blew the doors off the place, it was the forward guidance, right? So if we just talk about, you know, bottom line and top line, bottom line, they came in at $5.59 worth of EPS. Now, analysts on Wall Street were expecting only $5.05, so a big beat on the bottom line. And top line absolutely slaughtered it, coming in at $3.66 billion when analysts were only expecting about $2.8 billion. So if you look at year-over-year metrics, as we're coming up on the Ferrari showroom here, earnings were up 71% and sales were up 103%. But again, what we talk about a lot on the live stream is it's not necessarily the most important, right? And I don't like to dissect the earnings report and say, okay, what is the most important metric in an earnings report? But what I put a little bit more weighting on, in my view, is the guidance. Because if a company has a blow the doors off earnings report, right, but then the CEO and management come on the call and say, you know what, this quarter was really, really good, but as we were talking to our partners, our customers, and trying to get a forecast of sales and demand in the future, they think things are going to taper off a little bit. You know, inventories are stacking, new orders are supposed to come in soft. Even though that they blew the doors off of earnings, that stock is probably going to drop, because people don't buy a stock for what the company earned 3 months ago. They want to know how much skin in the game they have for the future. And that's exactly what management said on the earnings call today for Super Microcomputer. They said the demand has never been higher, and there may be a decade runway of revenue growth for us. So, you know, there's been a lot of conversation on Wall Street. Is this new AI trend, right? Everybody's talking about AI this, robotics that, ChatGPT this, yada, yada, yada. You know, is it all fagaze, wazi woozy, you know, blowing smoke and mirrors? What do we got? Or is there some staying power here? And is this a reality? I don't know. What do you guys think? We're gonna quickly take a pit stop to the Seagram building. This is East 54th Street and Park Avenue. But what do you guys think? Do you think that there is a part of the AI narrative that is being a little bit hyperbolic, a little bit overblown? Or do you think that this technology is really going to come in with the bang and start rocking the world here? Hey, Ivan Hernandez, what's up? Haven't seen you in a long time. It's a pleasure to have you here. I see out and about from Toronto, Canada. Lori Crockett Owens, what's up? Pup is here. Says, hey, everybody, and Tom. Bree Grams, good to see you. Oh, out and about says, hey, is WeWork closing down in New York City? So I don't think so. So the company did file for Chapter 11 bankruptcy, but usually what happens in the bankruptcy proceedings is that there's a massive restructuring. So, I mean, I'm not a customer anymore. I was a pretty big customer of WeWork. No longer. And I just want to say this, because we've been covering WeWork a lot on the live stream. I think it's a great product, okay? I have nothing against the product. I had great service when I was a customer of WeWork. I think it was just very poorly managed, right? And we spent like 5 live streams talking about, you know, the entire history of WeWork from its rise to its collapse. But there'll probably be a restructuring. They're probably going to try to negotiate a lot of the office leases they have. But I think the one thing that WeWork has going for it is they had tons of office leases, right? So in essence, it may sound a little crazy, but WeWork has some negotiating power here, because these landlords, right, have been desperate for tenants, and a lot of anchor tenants are WeWork. So I don't think a lot of these landlords are just going to kick WeWork to the curb. They're probably going to be forced to work with them. So I don't know. Yeah, DC322 says WeWork was a concept, yes, but it was a poorly run company. I agree, for sure. Alex R says, I don't know what AI is exactly. Do I wait until AMD earnings? Well, we're not talking about buying the stock. We're just talking about the thing. John Sunderland, I think it's overhyped. Addison says AI will exponentially increase in the economy. I think I agree. Carl Ross says, Tom, 2024 will be the year of several AI companies that will merge with bigger companies. Software development will be huge in the industry, and the AI store. Interesting. Toki is here, says, hey Tom, hope all is well. I appreciate that very much. Hey Hawaii, what's up? Good to see you. Dan Sang says, Tom, how was your day? My day was good. I actually had a really good day. It was very fun, very interesting. I had a closing, which was good. So we got a deal done. We got it closed. Everything is A-okay. I had some interesting meetings in the city with some pretty cool people. And I'm above ground still, so there's nothing to complain about. Just a little bit windy, but I don't know. What about you? But sort of piggybacking off that comment that said, you know, I think AI is going to exponentially grow the economy. I definitely agree. And, you know, we've had this conversation before, but I think it's important to note that in every major sort of technological cycle, it is met with extreme resistance. And we're actually going to talk about something quite stunning. Did anybody hear the breaking news, right? Kind of, not to pivot too much, but it all intertwines. Did anybody hear the breaking news from our good friend Elon Musk with his company Neuralink? Did anybody see that breaking news? I believe it just came out like 7 hours ago. One of my good buddies sent me the article, but apparently Elon Musk's company Neuralink has successfully installed a chip, the chip implant into somebody's head. And, you know, thankfully, the patient is recovering quite well and is responding rather well to that new brain implant. So the future is pretty much here. I mean, we'll see. I think that's probably going to be one of the most watched news stories February, just to see how this person is doing, to see how it improves cognitive ability and cognitive performance. But according to Elon Musk and the Neuralink team, the patient seems to be recovering from that procedure and is doing really well. which I think is great news, right? I mean, it's a little freaky and weird to think about, but you never know. I have an interesting prediction, and I want some honest feedback here, okay? Because I understand that we all, we don't always agree on this stuff, which is fine. I think it's good to have the conversation, but I think when we look back on this moment, oh, someone says it's fake news, really? I could have sworn I saw it. Hold on, let me just confirm in the chat. Someone said it's fake news. It could have been. I didn't confirm though. I saw it on Twitter. Anyway, if it was fake news or not, I think in 10 years when we look back on this moment, assuming the patient actually does have the chip implant, I think it's going to be more common than we ever understood. I think we're going to look back on this moment and compare it to smartphones, right? I always reference that Matt Lauer interview, and Matt Lauer's like, why would anybody want a smartphone, right? Who's ever going to use a smartphone? I think, we're going to be talking to our kids, or like when my kids are my age, they're going to be like, what? You don't have the brain chip implant? What are you, crazy? Everyone's like, yeah, I don't really need the chip implant, but I think everybody is going to have it. Now that may sound dystopian and crazy, and it very well may be, but I think it's going to become more normal with time, just like anything else, right? When I was a kid growing up, right, the first stage was, oh my gosh, we're in 7th grade and, the kid has an iPhone already in 7th grade. That's a little bit too soon. Now everybody has them at like 4 or 5 years old. Kids are walking around with iPads. I mean, pretty much at toddlers, right? It becomes normal over time. My prediction is that it's going to become more normal over time, and people are just going to get them. I don't know, any thoughts on that? Agreements, disagreements? I know, Dream Machines is like the cyberpunk future, right? That's another thing. Photos from around New York says the Apple Vision Pro 2 comes out on the 2nd. Vinny says it's real news. This could be big for the medical industry. Oh, absolutely. I mean, this could quite literally make people that are paralyzed, learn to walk again, or people that, have gone through a severe, let's say injury, they can talk again. I mean, this could be a huge medical breakthrough. I mean, now I'm not an expert. I'm just covering the news, right? I'm not a doctor. I'm not an engineer, but this could be unbelievable. This could quite potentially cure blindness. We could be on the precedent of a massive, boom in the medical industry. I know, Dan Sang says, remember the good old days when we thought the Game Boy was the best thing ever? For sure, 100%. All right, so we're headed towards the MetLife building here. Just let me catch up on some of the comments. Brad's Brain says, I think it'll develop to something different than we think. I don't agree that it'll be commonplace, but I do think it'll advance medical situations, blindness, paralysis, and the like. I think I agree. I'm trying to force myself, because this is one piece of advice that I've gotten from a very wise and successful friend. He says, try to lean into innovation, even though it makes you kind of feel uncomfortable for a little bit, right? So everybody was very reluctant with, social networks like Facebook at first. Oh, I don't want to be out there. I don't want to put myself out there. It's a little weird. Every single new innovation, even though it may not work out, you want to lean into it with everything you got, because the risk-reward ratio is the best right when a technology is immersive. Because if you try something out and it doesn't work, what do you risk? You don't really risk anything. But if you try it out and it works, or you make an investment and it works, that's going to be a 10x. It's going to be a 20x. So I don't know. Am I a big fan on putting chips in people's brains? Do I think it's going to be used for, let's just say, nefarious activity? I don't. I believe in humanity. I believe in, the goodness of people, and I try to be an optimist. I think this type of technology is going to be used for good. And if that means curing somebody's blindness, then I'm all gung-ho for it. So Jefferson says, Tom, just look at what AI has done in almost 2 years. Any tech that is good will spread as quickly as possible. For sure. It's that, it's kind of, what is that law called? I'm blanking on the name. I believe it's called Metcalfe's Law, right? Like the exponential growth networks. I believe many of the social network, fintech payment systems, and even the Bitcoin network, a lot of people base that adoption curve off of Metcalfe's Law. We're standing across the street from 299 Park, right here, as well as the Waldorf Astoria residences, which this is actually not going according to plan, by the way. It's a very old building. They're trying to make the Waldorf Astoria residences here, and a lot of the floor plates are giving the construction workers some problems. So TK Porsche says all new technologies have the capacity for good or bad use, and mankind will inevitably choose the path. Well said. John A says along with the good comes the bad, for sure. For sure. Yeah, but I mean, I think that's big breaking news. I think that's the biggest news of the day, is this Neuralink news. Now, oftentimes we've talked about, at least my thesis, and I'd sort of like to know yours in the comments. I'm just trying to read as many comments as I can. But here's my thoughts on having humanity become in singularity with the machine. And I think it's only one factor, and that factor is latency. And I've said this many times. We have already achieved superhuman, supercomputing status. We are cyborgs right now. We just don't realize it. Because, before the internet, right? I'm not sure how old the audience is, but maybe some of you were in college or in high school when we didn't have the internet, right? When we didn't have smartphones. So if you were in college and you wanted to know like some little interesting fact, you would actually have to go to a place called a library and look it up in an encyclopedia and do some research, and that may take you hours to find out. Now, right, you just say, hey Siri, hey Alexa, who's the 17th president of Zimbabwe? And it spits the answer back out in 30 seconds, less than 30 seconds, in 10 seconds, right? So the difference, the next step, in my view, is closing the latency even more. And I think that's what this Neuralink chip will do. So instead of having to go to a third-party device, which is the cell phone, or your Amazon Alexa, right, or your Google Assistant, and saying, hey Google, or hey Siri, who's the 17th president of the United States? And it gives you the answer. Now, you'll be able to just merely think about it, and you will become one, or in singularity, with the machine. That's what I think the main difference is. And I think once that happens, that changes everything. Because will we need education institutions anymore? Right? If you have all the answers to everything, if you're taking a test, let's say if you're taking a Regents exam or the SAT, do you now become a superhuman and you can get every single answer correct on the SAT because you can just think about the answer? I don't know. It's wild. It is wild times. What do you think about that? Agree, disagree? Don't agree? What do you think? All right, this is 270 Park. This is going to be the brand new JP Morgan Chase office tower. Hang with Mark Mom says, good evening, Tom. Mods, chat. Imagine if those chips can assist, with severe autism. Maybe. They can communicate with us effectively. They are so smart, but they can't communicate. Well, I think that's what a lot of these chips are going to do. I think that's what a lot of this technology, like the Neuralink, is going to be able to do. It's going to cure a lot of those conditions, right? Potential blindness, things like that. Let's see. Someone says schools will have to radically change with the times quickly. I don't know what that'll look like. Let's see. Jay says it sounds like a cross between wishful thinking and science fiction. It kind of does, right? Photos from around New York says, I wonder how cognitively one could refute a wrong response given by ChatGPT if fed directly into your mind via Neuralink. Good point. And ChatGPT isn't perfect, by the way. I always like to refer to that story with the attorney, right? Apparently there was an attorney, a defense attorney, that was using ChatGPT to try to reference previous cases. And when he did that, the judge was like, what are you talking about? That case never even happened. Like, what case are you referring to? Apparently, ChatGPT just made something up. Like, he was just total BS. So it's a work in progress. Yeah, it's a point. It's interesting, right? It's like, how do we know who fact checks the AI? I don't know. MK says hard pass for me. I don't want any software/hardware in me. I get it, for sure. But if you guys are enjoying the live stream so far tonight, you can feel free to leave a like on the video and click the subscribe button if you're new. We do these live streams pretty much every day, starting at 8:30 p.m. Walking around New York City, talking about the financial markets, technology, and looking at some cool real estate. Speaking of cool real estate, this is 432 Park. It's actually where we started the live stream. And now we're checking out the construction site at 270 Park. This is Jamie Dimon's brand new office tower here. So, but yeah, in the, to piggyback off of this topic and this idea of artificial intelligence, machine learning, earnings so far have sort of been cooperating with the fact that AI is not going to be all smoke and mirrors and hype, because there's a lot of analysts on the street that still believe, just like in every cycle, that this AI is very early in its infancy and is going to end the way that the tech and telecom boom and bust ended, where it was just a lot of these companies that went public, all these .com companies, and then they all, crashed and went to zero because many of them were pre-revenue. However, I'd like to say this is an interesting perspective. How many, pure play AI, artificial intelligence IPOs are there? I don't think I can name 5, right? So I think that this could potentially just be getting started, this whole wave in this trend of AI, right? There's going to be thousands, right? I can almost guarantee that there's going to be thousands of pure play AI startups that are going to come public on the public markets via IPO or SPAC, right? Or whatnot, direct listing, however you want to frame it. And the market is going to decide which company is the best. Some of them are going to become the next Microsofts, the next Amazons, the next Alphabets in terms of the performance of the company. But many of them are going to go to zero. And we haven't even started that cycle yet, in my opinion, right? 2022 and 2023 were some of the worst years on record for new issues on Wall Street. The all-time record high of new IPOs on the market was 2021, and that was when, you know, we had cheap money flowing through the economy. But now that interest rates have gone up, you know, the IPO markets have essentially shut off, right? There was almost no new IPOs last year. So assuming, right, and this is going to be the next topic that we're going to segue into, assuming the Federal Reserve is a little bit more accommodative this year in terms of monetary policy, I think that's going to lubricate the IPO markets in private equity, and there's going to be more deals done in terms of the IPO sector. Now, we're standing across the street from the Roosevelt Hotel. This is one of the largest migrant centers in New York City. But just a quick announcement for everybody. We do write a free investing newsletter where we're going to cover a lot of these topics on Thursday. We're going to do a deep dive, soup to nuts, on micro supercomputer or super microcomputer. We're going to do a deep dive into Meta's earnings report, Alphabet, and Microsoft, which hit a new all-time record high today. So if you want to receive that newsletter, the Behind the Street newsletter, in your inbox every other Thursday after the market closes, go ahead and scan the QR code on your screen, or if you type !news, NEWS, in the chat, the Nightbot will drop the link to our newsletter. Again, it's completely free, and we send it out every other Thursday. But this is the Migrant Center. This is the Roosevelt Hotel. Now, unfortunately, I was reading some news that, you know, they're starting mass eviction processes on a lot of the migrants here, and it's the middle of winter and it's freezing, so a lot of people are going to be displaced. So this is a big issue for the city right now. It's interesting to kind of see it live on the ground floor. Hey, Hang with Mark Mom says AI is in medical and in defense tactical for armed forces now as well. It's going to keep growing. Yeah, I mean, imagine all the Raytheon. What are some of the biggest defense contractors? Grumman, Raytheon. There's a few others, right? I mean, if you don't think there's going to be AI, you know, targeted missiles, where the missile is essentially programmed based upon your, you know, biometrics in your face, and then the missile sort of just finds you. I think that's coming too. MK is here. What's up? Good to see you, MK. Thanks so much for joining us. TK Porsche says, so far there are no pure play startups in the public market to succeed or fail. All the AI investment is done. Yeah, you're totally right. Which is kind of what leads me to believe that this has only just begun. But maybe, you know, as maybe sort of you alluded to, these tech companies now are so massive that they can just, you know, buy these smaller companies out and kind of create just monopolies, right? Peter says General Dynamics and Lockheed Martin. That's right, Lockheed Martin as well. Forgot about Lockheed Martin. Coming right up on Grand Central Station right now. Oh, that's right, Vinny says C3 AI is public. That's true, forgot about that one. There's one, right? Elliot Wave Reviews, Tom, you really think they'll have missiles that can track your ass wherever you are in the world? I think so, 100%. And the reason why I think that is because has anybody, okay, I'll ask this question. Does anybody here shop at Whole Foods? And has anybody paid with their palm print? Now, apparently, I've never done this before, but apparently if you go to Whole Foods, right, if you shop at Whole Foods right now, you don't have to bring your wallet, you don't have to use Apple Pay, nothing. You can literally pay with your palm. Isn't that wild? So essentially all you do when you're at the register, you just go like that, boop. And all of, I guess, your palm print, and it charges your Amazon account. So if we already do that, maybe I'm wrong, who knows? This is the Yale Club here. Yeah, MK is extremely hard to know what the military actually uses AI for. And this was explained to me one time by a good friend of mine. Those insane B-2 stealth bombers, you know, fly over like a sports stadium. Like, the thing looks like an alien ship, okay? And that's just the stuff that the public is allowed to know about. B-2 stealth bomber that looks like something out of a Star Wars movie. What type of technology do they have that we're not allowed to know about? I mean, really? I'd probably say a lot, but... Right, I think we should be out of the buffer zone now. Let me see if I could turn off my Wi-Fi. But I think we should be good, right? What do you guys think? Can you hear me, or? Got it, Boston City Limits, cool. Yeah, John Ace is a lot of it. The public doesn't even know. I totally agree. Hey, DM, good to see you. Thanks so much for joining us. Trust you're well. Now, it's so cold out in New York. There's not a lot of foot traffic. Very little pedestrian traffic today. This is Grand Central Station, overlooking the Chrysler Building. Beautiful shot of the Chrysler, by the way. All right, let's head towards the Hudson Yards tonight. We haven't been there in a long time. Al Baker, what's up? This is Hello Tom. Good to see you, Al. We're just talking about some earnings reports. We're talking about the new news that came out with Elon Musk's Neuralink. Much, much more. Hey, Sabrina Fair, what's up? Good to see you. Thanks so much for joining us. We'll wait till the light. We'll check out the view. Now it seems as if the wind died down a little bit. So hopefully as we head towards the center of Manhattan and then we head down towards 34th Street, Hudson Yards, which is where the new BlackRock headquarters is. Hopefully it won't be so windy. We'll see. Hey, David S., what's going on? Thanks for joining us. Now, we do have some news. Obviously, today was a very good day for the U.S. equity markets. We had the S&P 500 hitting a brand new all-time record high today. We had the Dow Jones Industrial Average also notching an all-time record high today, but our good friend Mark Zuckerberg, his company Meta, reached a fresh new all-time record high today as well. Now, if you remember, Meta put in a high on September 7th of 2021. Okay? So September 7th of 2021, Meta hit a new all-time record high. And then, we all know what happened. There was a massive bear market in technology stocks particularly. And Meta, Facebook, whatever you want to call it, went down 77%. So the stock pretty much nearly retraced 80% of its value, which is an unbelievable correction in the stock. And we all know the reasons why, right? With all of this cheap money floating around, all the pandemic stimulus, all of the fiscal stimulus, and all of the monetary stimulus, right, floating around, Meta, along with many other tech companies, they got a little bit lazy, right? When good times are here, people tend to get a little bit lackadaisical, they get lazy, and particularly at major corporations, they suffer from something called corporate bloat. I'm sure we've all heard that term before, corporate bloat. And shareholders were really pressing Mark Zuckerberg, right? They were grilling him like crazy. They were not happy about the performance of the company, and there was a lot of duplicity amongst positions. So Mark Zuckerberg had a big internal meeting, and then on the next earnings call, he said we're going to do pretty much a full rip and replace of the company, and we're going to make 2023 the year of efficiency for Meta. They named it the year of efficiency. Now, what does the year of efficiency mean? Well, if we sort of can decode it from corporate speak, it means they're going to fire pretty much everybody at the company, right? They're going to fire everybody, okay? They're going to tell more than half the company to kick rocks. They're going to get super lean and mean, focus on the business, get back to the fundamental core values of the company, essentially get back to the basics. And that's exactly what they did. So if you go to Meta's, they're going to be reporting earnings here very soon. The stock just hit all-time record high. But if you go to Meta's website, right, and you go to the investor relations page, okay, I want you to do an audit of their earnings deck, particularly where they show employee headcount. And I think it's going to surprise you, right? So if you look at September 30th of 2023, Meta had 66,185 employees. Oh, look at this. This is a Tesla taxi here. Hold that thought. You got to check this out. This is a Tesla yellow cab. Pretty cool, right? Very seldom do we ever see these in the city. Looks awesome. But anyway, so in September 30th, 2023, at the end of the quarter, Meta had 66,185 employees. That is a decrease of 20,297 employees. So Meta and Mark Zuckerberg fired over 20,000 people, okay? They cut over pretty much about 25% of the workforce they fired. Now, think about that cost savings. Maybe we have some employees of Meta here, right? And I don't want to come off as I'm celebrating that. It's heartbreaking, it's horrible, it's terrible for anybody to lose their jobs. But at the same time, Mark Zuckerberg, as the CEO of the company, has a fiduciary duty and a responsibility to shareholders to maximize profits. And one of the ways, unfortunately, companies can do that is they can look at the company, look at the employee headcount, and trim where they don't need and double down on what they want to do. So apparently shareholders really like that. And advertising revenue is still strong. We're going to get an update on that pretty soon. But with 22,000 less employees, I mean, think about that in payroll and benefits and healthcare alone, just cost savings to the company. Wild, right? And it's not just Mark Zuckerberg, but it was a huge culling in tech in 2023. Hey, Glenda says, hey Tom, your channel just popped up on my YouTube. This is great. I always wanted to go to New York City. I don't know much about what you're talking about, but I love the views. Awesome. Well, Glenda, welcome to the stream. We're happy to have you. Addison says, in your opinion, what income does someone need to have to live in this neighborhood in New York City? This neighborhood, like Midtown Manhattan, 42nd Street? Well, in this exact neighborhood where we are, like quite literally on 6th Avenue and 42nd Street, this is a lot of commercial space. So these buildings that we're looking at right here, pretty much all up Avenue of the Americas, this is all office space. But you do have some residential on the south side of Bryant Park. This is big money stuff here, particularly if you live like right there, Bryant Park. It's expensive, very, very expensive.
Because I was gonna leave, I don't like, you know.
But the further east that you go, right? The further east that you go on 42nd Street, pretty much that's gonna bring you by the United Nations. You can get relatively decent rent there. Now, I mean, I guess it depends. Are you talking about a single person with a family? If you're single, you know, I'd say you could probably maybe rent with roommates. Make it like $85,000, $100,000, something like that, and you could be in like a 2-bedroom apartment with roommates, something like that. Hey, Dante Rose. Oh my God, I haven't seen you in a long time. It's good to see you. Troy Atman says, per Fortune, Mark Zuckerberg's 46.5. Oops. billion-dollar loss in the metaverse is so huge that it would be a Fortune 100 company. Yeah, but isn't that so crazy? The advertising business at Meta, hopefully we don't get hit by this taxi. The advertising business at Meta is so crazy lucrative that essentially Mark Zuckerberg is using the profitability of the ad business to subsidize the losses on the metaverse. Now, I don't know if the metaverse is going to work or not. I mean, Mark Zuckerberg is much smarter than I am. But I will say this, okay? This is a good shot of the Empire State Building. Did anybody see the Lex Fridman podcast? Where he was interviewing Mark Zuckerberg specifically about the metaverse. That was an incredible interview, and that totally changed my perception on what the metaverse is actually going to be about. If you haven't watched it, you know, you could pull up another tab or just make a mental note. Just go on Google or YouTube and just search up the Lex Fridman podcast interviewing Mark Zuckerberg in the metaverse. That was an unbelievable podcast. It was insane. So realistic, so lifelike. And if that's the future, okay, maybe it could work. I don't know. Jefferson says, yeah, Tom, I saw it. It's very good. It was crazy. To me, it was wild. It was insane. MK says, I work in advertising at Meta, and we do invest a lot. Yeah, so I mean, there you go. And the advertising business is incredibly lucrative. One of the things that we were talking about yesterday is if you're a small business owner right now, or you're looking to start a company or sell something online, the months of January and February are the best months to experiment with advertising campaigns. Because pay-per-click ads, they're the cheapest in terms of the price per impression right after the new year, right? So after New Year's, advertising rates drop off a cliff. So, a lot of people like to talk about how big tech is putting small, medium-sized businesses out of business, in a sense. Not to make the whole stream of me, sticking up for Mark Zuckerberg, but I don't think there's been a company in history that's done more for small businesses in terms of helping them get exposure, grow revenues, and marketability than Facebook and Instagram, right? Think about all the small businesses that advertise on Facebook, that advertise on Instagram. Microsoft's reporting earnings tomorrow, right? LinkedIn advertising, I'm not sure if anybody's done that. That is very lucrative too. So, JC, we're going to talk about Bitcoin in a minute. JC says, why are the ad rates dropping in Jan, Feb? Well, it depends. You kind of want to get eyeballs in front of consumers. You want to get your product in front of consumers during the holidays, right? So really starting in October and then ending in December, you get the Thanksgiving holiday, you get Halloween, you get Hanukkah, you get Christmas. So advertisers pay a hell of a lot of money during the holiday season to market their products and services. So, and you can kind of notice this if anybody here runs, like if you have like a podcast that you sell advertising on, or if you have a YouTube channel, you'll notice you make a ton of money in November and December, but in January, February, your income literally gets cut in half because advertisers just don't charge, or the platforms don't charge advertisers that much. Hey, Jules is here. What's up? Welcome to Times Square. This is Dear Thomas. Great to see you. How are things? Been very busy with work, so it's good to catch up. Yeah, things have been really good. I can't complain. It's just a little bit cold out in New York City, but look, things are going along swimmingly. Today was a good day. Had some good meetings. Met some good people. And thank you for joining us. Appreciate it. We are now pretty much smack dab in the heart of New York City's Times Square. If you guys are enjoying the live stream so far tonight, feel free to leave a like on the video and click the subscribe button if you're new. JH says, hey Tom, me and my wife make a point to watch you each evening. She's from Manhattan and loves seeing the city. We live in South Dakota. Oh, cool. Nice. Whoa, what a move, right? That's an interesting move. All the way from Manhattan to South Dakota. Definitely a huge difference. That's pretty cool. Thank you so much for watching. Appreciate that. Michael G says, hope your New Year is good. 40 here in Tampa. That's cold for Tampa, Florida. Whoa. 40 degrees. Yikes.
Give me like 10 tries.
That's freezing.
10 tries. One. Obviously, I'm not going to get that shit. 3 tries.
I know, D says, we're anxiously waiting for the spring. Now, February is usually freezing in the city, and March is always gray and cloudy. This entire week has been overcast, gray, rainy, cloudy. Okay, JH says home prices are much better and it is definitely safer. Yeah, That's probably definitely a given, and you probably have a lot of land too, right? All right, West 43rd Street and Broadway. Nako says, has the Airbnb situation changed in Manhattan? Not really. There's just those new Airbnb laws that are a little bit more restrictive on short-term rentals, right? So essentially, from my understanding, it's essentially you have to do like longer-term, short-term rentals. So 30 days plus, right? You can't just churn people out constantly, like on a weekend rental or something like that. And if it's an owner-occupied unit, I believe the owner has to live there while they're renting out the individual rooms. Or you have to do it on a longer-term basis. Now, I'm kind of at odds with the city with this, to be honest. I'm just going to be very blunt. The city will go through every little nonsensical thing to try to solve a problem when the obvious answer is so clear. Yes, the city is correct that we do have a housing crisis in New York City. Whether you're a Democrat or Republican, that's pretty obvious. It's so expensive to live here, it's ridiculous, it's like cartoon land. But, you know, I mean, we don't have to be, you know, have a master's degree in economics. Look at this FDNY thing. That thing is so tiny. But anyway, my point is we don't have to have a master's degree in economics to understand how we could bring down the price of rent in the city. And it's supply and demand. So there's a lot of people that want to live in Manhattan for obvious reasons. The opportunities, the culture, the people, the food. I mean, it's just an amazing place to live. I don't think anybody doubts that, right? Manhattan is unreal. This is the business center of the universe. The smartest people from all over the world are attracted to New York City. But we don't have enough inventory to house everybody. So the city needs to be very accommodative to developers and let them just build, right? And not nitpick every little thing. So instead of trying to nitpick an Airbnb law, because the city thinks that's going to bring supply onto the market, it's not. It's not going to bring any supply onto the market. What's going to bring supply onto the market is if you let developers just build product, okay? And you get rid of all these crazy rent stabilization and rent control. Because right now, I believe there's about 70,000 vacant apartments in the city alone. Now you may be thinking to yourself, well, whoa, if there's 70,000 vacant units, why don't we just rent those out? Well, it's a good question. The problem is we can't, because they're not rent ready. They need to be renovated. They need restoration. You got to put money into them to bring them on the market. Okay, so the next question is, well, then why don't the developers just invest the money to get them rent ready and then rent them out? Problem solved. Nah, not so fast, because many of them are rent stabilized. So if a developer or a landlord is going to invest, you know, $100,000, $200,000, $1 million, whatever it costs to fix up the property, to put it on the market, well, they're not able to put it at the market rate so that they can make their money back. So landlords all across the city would much rather just have these units sit completely empty than fix them up and put them on the market, because they wouldn't be able to make a good return on investment. So it's all backwards. It's all just ridiculous. The only saving grace we have, in my opinion, is the following. And I'm actually going to write an article about this in the Behind the Street newsletter. If you want to read it, if you type !news, NEWS in the chat, the Nightbot will drop the link to our Substack. We publish every other Thursday. But what I think could be an interesting saving grace for New York City is all of this vacant commercial real estate. So particularly in Lower Manhattan, if you think about FIDI, the financial district, there is a ton of vacant office units. So a lot of that is probably going to be converted into condominiums, not all of it, because it's very difficult and it's very expensive to do so, right? The floor plates may be a little bit too narrow, you know, the plumbing may not be correct. But a lot of those commercial real estate operators that are sitting on all of this floating rate debt, well, they're gonna have to make a decision because they're not gonna be able to make their payments. You have a very interesting time in New York City where you have your rent rolls have never been lower, right? So vacancy has never been higher, and then you're gonna have a huge balloon in cost. So commercial real estate debt is not like, you know, you're getting a 30-year fixed rate mortgage, okay? A lot of it is interest only, and you have to roll over the debt at another interest rate. And now interest rates are very high. Oh, look at that. It's a gorilla. So now interest rates are very high. So a lot of this stuff is probably gonna go into foreclosure. It's probably gonna get bought, you know, 30 cents, 20 cents on the dollar. And as demolition costs come down, I think a lot of developers are just gonna demo these office towers and build new residential apartments, which is pretty good news. I think, you know, over the next 10 years, I'm very optimistic on the city. I think we're gonna get much needed residential inventory on the market, but it's gonna take time for this to play out. And the city's gonna go through some pain. It's gonna be short-term pain, long-term gain, but we're gonna be writing an article about this. Again, if you wanna read that, it's gonna be all-inclusive. I'm gonna send it out on Thursday. If you just scan the QR code on your screen or type !news, NEWS in the chat, the Nightbot will drop the link to our Behind the Street newsletter. We covered the US equity markets, fixed income, emerging markets, and all things New York City real estate. So you do not want to miss it. Check it out. We send it out and publish every other Thursday. All right, let's venture a little bit uptown, and we'll do one lap around Times Square, and then we will boogie on out of here. Very surprised how dead it is tonight. There's almost like nobody in Times Square. It's like a ghost town here. Hey, Al Baker, what's up? This is Tom. Microsoft and Google report after the bell. Should be interesting. Yeah, I mean, those are going to be the two earnings reports of the day tomorrow. Now, Microsoft rallied into a new all-time record high today. So maybe this is the market telling us that Microsoft's going to have a blowout earnings report. We'll see. You know what? Since it's dead in Times Square tonight, everybody, let's go all the way to the top of the red steps. I have never been to the top of the red steps in my entire life. That's not a lie. So let's check it out. Let's do it together, I guess. I've never been on this thing once in my life. I don't really come here. Whoa. This looks cool. Let's see how the view is from up here. All right, what do you guys think? Let me see if I can go do the wide angle camera lens. Is it too dark for the wide angle? What do you guys think? This is actually kind of cool, I'm not gonna lie. And I'm not a big Times Square guy, as you know, but this is actually cool. And all the way up there, you can see the 2024 numerals. All right, since I'm here, I might as well plug in my phone. So we'll take a little bit of an intermission on the red steps. Oof. All right, we got the but if you guys are enjoying the live stream so far tonight, feel free to leave a like on the video and click the subscribe button if you're new. We do these streams every night starting at 8:30, walking around the city, talking about the financial markets, the real estate market, just pretty much hanging out. Let's try to get off these stairs for a minute. I mean, most nights you can't even walk up here, it's so packed. Hey, yesterday 15, what's up? Says, yeah, it's a very chill night in New York. It is. Usually this is packed. MK says, is Manhattan a safe place to live? For sure. Yeah, I mean, Manhattan is a very big place, so it depends on where you are too. But generally speaking, yeah, Manhattan is very safe. Could it be safer? Yeah. But oh, nice. JH says we do have a big backyard. My wife lived on 53rd and 8th. Okay, cool. Nice. All right, let's walk up Broadway here for a moment, and then I want to take you guys, because we do have a lot of new viewers here, I want to show you a little piece of Wall Street history. Oh, look at this Peanuts thing. So we're gonna walk past the old Lehman Brothers. I'm not sure if anybody here remembers Lehman Brothers, but now it is the Barclays Investment Bank, which is the British Investment Bank. We're actually just passing Morgan Stanley here too. This is Morgan Stanley. Or I think it was. It kind of looks blown out, doesn't it? Maybe they moved. Who knows? There's been a lot of major banks leaving Times Square. Hey, Western Mass Dave. What's up, Dave? Welcome to Times Square. Kind of interesting to hear me say that, right? Very seldom are we in the Times Square neighborhood, but it's dead. So I'm like, might as well come and hang out in Times Square. We were just talking about MSCI's earnings report, blew the doors off the place, beat and raised quarter. Right, a lot of times what's important to look for, and we covered this almost to the point of ad nauseum, you want to look for companies that are not only beating earnings expectations, but they're raising forward guidance. And if you could sit for 4 to 6 beat and raise quarters, the stock on average is going to go up 400%. But you got to be willing to sit in those leaders. This is West 48th Street, and now you can see the Barclays in the distance, as well as the French bank BNP Paribas. Hey, Abdul is here. What's up? Townhouses. Hey, Tom, what are your thoughts on the Federal Reserve becoming tax exempt on October 2023? I don't know. I think that's number one, I was unaware of that. But number two, I don't really think anything of it. I believe that there's a lot that goes on at the Federal Reserve that we don't even know about. I mean, that we could spend a whole entire live stream talking about my issues with the Federal Reserve. But speaking of the Federal Reserve, we're going to hear from them tomorrow. So tomorrow is January 30th. This is going to be the first FOMC meeting of the year, 2024. So the January 30th, January 31st FOMC meeting will kick off tomorrow, and then on Wednesday we're going to be dissecting this speech from Fed Chair Jerome Powell. Now, if you look at the CME Fed Watch tool, it's pricing in an almost near certainty that we're going to have a pause on Wednesday. So the Federal Reserve is not going to raise interest rates according to the market. I think that'll probably be the case as well. And just to quickly regroup and review, the Fed funds rate is in a target range of 5.25% to 5.5%. So it's a busy week. I mean, today was action-packed on Wall Street for earnings. Tomorrow is going to be busy. You have Microsoft, Alphabet. You know, we're going into the big tech earnings, and then we hear from the Fed. So we'll see. This is Barclays. So this was the old Lehman Brothers right here. Someone says Dick Fold says hello. Good evening. Yeah, that is the old CEO of Lehman Brothers. My most fond memory of Dick Fold is when he was I think he was addressing all of his employees at a conference. And this was when, you know, a lot of hedge funds on Wall Street were piling in short on Lehman Brothers stock. And Dick Fold was like, you know what I really want to do? He's like, I want to reach in, rip out their hearts and eat it before they die. And nobody really knew what to say to that. It was like, okay, this is kind of weird. This guy is kind of taking this too far. But that's kind of the guy he was. He was, you know, type A of a type A of a type A of a type A personality. And you kind of have to be like that, you know, to run a major investment bank. You got to be nuts. Not in a bad way, but I mean, you know, just look at all the major CEOs of Wall Street megabanks. You know, Jamie Dimon, you know, type A personality, very blunt, cut and dry. You had the former CEO of Goldman Sachs, Lloyd Blankfein, exactly like that. The current CEO of Goldman Sachs is like that. David Solomon. You know, these are, you know, no nonsense people, I guess. Maybe I guess took it a little bit too far with that statement, but. All right, so we're just essentially leaving Times Square, by the way. We're headed a little bit uptown. We're not going to go all the way uptown because we do have to head back towards 30th Street. But this is the BNP Paribas. So this is the French investment bank. Right here. And many years ago, there was actually a helicopter crash on the top of this building. Oh, wow, that's the Sheraton Hotel, which is a very nice hotel. And now we're headed up towards New York City's Billionaires Row. I believe we've covered this before, everybody, but we have some breaking and record New York City real estate news. So Central Park Tower, which is one of the most luxurious buildings on New York City's Billionaires Row. It was developed by Extel, the same company who did 157, which was the first building to ever be constructed on Billionaires Row. Well, the duplex that sits atop of Central Park Tower just sold and closed at $149,500,000. Isn't that insanity? I'll say that again. It just sold and closed at $149,500,000. Insane. Now, the person who represented the buyer was from the Eklund Gomes team at Douglas Elliman. Insane. So we always say there's always a bull market somewhere. You just need to know where to look. Now, there's a raging bull market in the stock market, you know, with the S&P hitting yet again another all-time record high today. Rip-roaring rally on Wall Street. This is as good as it's going to get for Wall Street in America. The best it's ever been for Wall Street in America. I think it's about to get even better. But, you know, the New York City real estate market is making a comeback with these record deals. I mean, that is a huge blockbuster deal. And there's an old saying, not only on Wall Street, but in business in general, it's called the cockroach theory. When, you know, let's say if anybody, I'm sure a lot of you have kids maybe. I don't know. When you take your kids to college at first, you know, maybe you're looking for their first apartment, right? $800, crappy college apartment. You see a cockroach crawl out from under the refrigerator and you're like, you know what? That's probably just one cockroach. That's no big deal. No. If you see one, there's about 80,000 right behind that refrigerator, right? It's the cockroach theory. So when there's one big mega deal that gets done, oh, there's a couple more in the works. It's similar to earnings season on Wall Street. When you have one company, you know, destroy earnings, blow it out of the water. It's that cockroach theory. You can kind of use that as a proxy to say, okay, NVIDIA had an amazing quarter, so is AMD. Microsoft had a great quarter, okay, so is Alphabet. Or, you know, if Alphabet reported a great quarter, their advertising business exploded, well, probably Meta is going to have the same thing. Right? It's called the cockroach theory. So it has been my view, and it has been of my opinion, that I think we have sort of, in residential real estate particularly, we've hit a little bit of a trough here in New York City. I think commercial real estate CRE has a little bit further to fall, but I think over the next couple months, remember me saying this, I think you're going to see another blockbuster deal, another record-breaking deal, and it's all going to happen right here in Manhattan. Now, speaking of Billionaires Row, this building that kind of has the blue checkers all over it, this is the first ever building constructed on New York City's Billionaires Row, 157. The 83rd floor of the building, the entire 83rd floor, was listed by real estate broker Noble Black. It's one of the best and most successful real estate brokers in New York City. Works at Douglas Elliman. He listed that apartment for $34 million. I actually went to the broker open house. It was unbelievable. It was an amazing party they had there. and it sold 2 weeks later for 31 million bucks. Crazy. You can see just a little piece of the Steinway Tower too. Wow, Chloe says the $149 million apartment cost 6 times more than the entire building that sold for $23 million on Central Park South. Whoa, what building sold for $23 million on Central Park South? Oh, are you talking about 5 East 59th Street? Oh, okay. Yeah, that's technically not on Central Park South, but it's pretty much right there. You're right. Crazy, right, to think about?
Yeah.
Whoa. Right, everybody, this is Carnegie Hall. Townhouses, Tom, inverted yield curve, question mark. Yes, the yield curve is very, very much inverted. If we want to check up on it, we can go to cnbc.com/bonds. Once again, cnbc.com/bonds, and you can take a look at the entire yield curve. And it is very much inverted, you're right. Now, this building, Central Park Tower, is where they sold and closed the $149 million apartment. We'll continue to walk around just so we can get a better view of it, but this is the Brooklyn Diner. Townhouse, 6-month curve equals recession. Maybe, maybe not all the time. There's a lot of nuance there. What really matters most, in my view, is not necessarily the inverted yield curve, but generally what tends to happen during the process where the yield curve actually uninverts. And we'll talk about that here in a moment. But what do you guys think of Central Park Tower? This thing is massive. Look at that. I mean, I don't know how well this is turning out on a live stream, but in person, you know, looking up at this building, it is just unbelievable how tall this is. It's insane. An amazing building. It's crazy. I know, travel nieces is like, it makes you dizzy actually a little bit. Kind of does. Someone's like, where's Paul Volcker when you need him? Yeah, I mean, I think that's the biggest concern, and you know, that's one of the one of the last things I wanted to ask the audience here and get your insight. Now, we know it's an election year, right? The precedent there. But we can't ignore the fact that presidents, right, tend to put pressure one way or the other on the Fed chair. Okay, I think we could all agree with that, whether we're Republicans, Democrats, Independents. Even though the Federal Reserve is supposed to act independently of the government, well, there's a lot of presidents that have big personalities that kind of, you know, bully the Fed chair one way or the other, right? Not making a political statement, just kind of making an observation. So, should there be a change in presidents for 2024, right? Let's say if, you know, Biden doesn't get reelected, and let's say if Trump or whoever the Republican nominee is going to be. Whoa, look at this. Look at that boat. insane. You guys see that? It's not every day you see these two huge yachts going down 57th Street. That was wild. Well, I think there's actually a boat show going on at the Jacob Javits Center. So maybe they have the boats coming down 57th Street. But yeah, definitely crazy to see two huge yachts getting towed down Billionaires Row. Anyway, what we were talking about is, should President Trump get reelected? If you think about what he did, right, with Fed Chair Jerome Powell when he was in office, if you think back to during his term, and again, we're just talking about the economy here and the markets, so let's not get too turbocharged in the chat. It's, respect all political beliefs here. President Trump was putting severe pressure on Powell to say, hey, if you dare raise rates during my presidency, essentially I'm going to fire your ass, right? In putting it very bluntly. And Powell, held off and didn't raise rates. Right, we have a change of presidency or whatnot, I think Powell is going to be forced to be very, very accommodative. Now, the problem with that is that sort of thinking too short-sighted? Or even maybe, let's say if Biden puts pressure on Fed Chair Jerome Powell, right? I know they're not supposed to, they're supposed to work independently, but let's be realistic here. Where is CPI right now? I think CPI in the United States is 3.4%. Okay, it's actually ticked up the last 2 months. If you want to know exactly where CPI is, if you type CPI in the chat, the Nightbot is going to drop the link to the Bureau of Labor Statistics infographic on all categories of CPI. So from food at home, food away from home, shelter costs, gasoline, crude, everything, energy. And if we just start to celebrate, like, hey, we beat inflation, inflation's, at 3.4%, and we just start cutting, right, and shifting from quantitative tightening to quantitative easing too soon, well, could that be sort of repeating history? And we have this big spike in inflation again, and then we have to have somebody come in, like a Paul Volcker, and really put a damper on inflation. So I think that's something we need to think about, because you never want to celebrate a victory too early, and then you have this huge, economic boom that makes inflation go crazy again, and then now the cat's out the bag, and we have to get a Fed chair that is extremely overdoes it on the tightening. So I don't know. That is potentially a cause for concern. And I think the market's actually pricing that in, by the way. If you look at the CME Fed Watch tool, apparently the market is pricing that in. It states that by the end of the year, right, December of 2024, the Fed funds rate, according to that tool, is going to be in a range of 3 3/4 and 4%. So, who knows? We are now at the Deutsche Bank Tower here. Looking right at the taxis. TK Porsche says the president has no actual authority over the Fed chair other than the threat of not reappointing. Yeah, absolutely. The person, when the current term is up to the Fed chair to stand tall and act independently. 100% accurate. Yep, absolutely. Yeah, Town now, says Tom, is Mark Zuckerberg building that bunker? I heard about that because of Hawaii. She sent it to me in the chat. Apparently Mark Zuckerberg has bought like a crazy amount of land in Hawaii and is building like a doomsday bunker. Which is kind of weird. I think he spent over $100 million on it, or like $80 million or something crazy. We're now at the Jazz at Lincoln Center, West 60th Street. Yeah, Hawaii says yep. Yeah, I mean, what do I think about it? I don't know. I mean, I think it's kind of crazy, right? $100 million bunker with, all types of compartments underground. I don't know what's going on over there. Holy crap, a $270 million bunker. Jeez. Now this is the Trump International Hotel and Tower right here. And this is a pretty cool shot of New York City's Billionaires Row. You can see the Steinway Tower, 157, 220 Central Park South and Central Park Tower. Troy Atman says you think he's there now in the bunker with the US and Iran tensions. That has, as you all know, and this is actually something I wanted to talk about. There's so much news in the market this week. We're going to need to do like 8-hour live streams this week. Maybe we'll save that topic for tomorrow, but that is something I'm monitoring very closely. Usually I don't pay much attention at all to geopolitical events, but this one has kind of gotten me a little bit jittery, okay, with these building tensions between the US and Iran and our crazy psychopath politicians saying, again, I don't like to get political, but I mean, they're like, we got to hit Tehran and blow them off the face of the earth. I mean, these people are sick. So, look, do I think it's going to be the start of World War III? I don't think so. I really don't, because the market would be telling us that. There would be volatility in the market. You would have the VIX blowing off. You'll sort of know it, right? And you kind of got to watch the bond market for that, because when there's trouble, you see a massive, massive sell-off in the debt market, and you have yields exploding. You have yields exploding to the upside, and you have a huge bond market sell-off. And I think that will be the signal. But right now, I mean, everything is very tame. I mean, the VIX is what? What is the VIX at right now, everybody? Like 12, 13? So there's not a whole lot of fear, but that's something I'm watching very closely, because that is a mess. We don't need to be getting involved in anything in the Middle East anymore. But again, not to put my politics out there, but it does, yes. So somebody says, does the Steinway Tower have anything to do with the Steinway Piano Company? It does, absolutely. Yep. Now this is 15 Central Park West. This building is actually nicknamed the Limestone Building. Yeah, my big thing is that, there's so many problems here at home. And the piece of advice that I was given is, charity always starts at home, okay? And look, I'm a huge patriot. I love America. I think it's the greatest country on earth. But we have some real problems here on our home turf that I think we need to, spend our money on, and our time and our resources on. Right, instead of Hellfire missiles and drones and funneling money to Ukraine, and we have homeless veterans starving to death. We have an opioid crisis. We have fentanyl that's invaded almost every neighborhood and nook and cranny of the United States. We got to fix it. We got to figure it out, and we got to put a stop to it before you sort of spread yourself too thin. Right, when you have your hand in so many different things. We've all heard this, can't be the jack of all trades. It's best to kind of pick a few things and hammer down on it and focus and fix those problems. And right now, look, I love America. I think it's the greatest country on earth. We have some problems here. that we need to clean up. So, yeah. Now, guys, look at this. This is cool. I think the triplex is open. Hold on. Let's see. Or the duplex, excuse me. Now, if we zoom in all the way to the top, yeah. Wow, look at that. So that is the duplex atop of Central Park Tower that just sold for $149,500,000. Someone's home. They're probably checking out the place. Maybe they're moving in some furniture. It's cool to see, right? Maybe one day, right, we could all chip in for a down payment. Me and Western Mass Dave will put up 20% and then everybody else could chip in the rest. Something like that. I'm down. It's crazy walking the streets in New York, particularly right on Billionaires Row, and looking up at all these buildings, because there's a person who owns every single one of these multi-million-dollar apartments, right? I often think about that. I look up at these buildings, I'm like, you know what? There's an entrepreneur that owns one of those. There's a big hedge fund guy or girl, a private equity person, a person in biotech, you know, a person who created this company, this product or service. And it's all possible right here in the US. It's kind of wild. Yo, David Sommers. Please, David, send up some of that Southern California heat to New York City, because it's freezing tonight. It's like 35 degrees out. And it's windy too. I know, everything in Miami says, yeah, it's crazy how few were lit up. 220 Central Park South looks pretty cool too. Yeah, check it out. It says, how can we help? You know, I think it's by providing alternatives, right? I truly believe that, you know, that's why you kind of always have to keep yourself busy, because if you don't have anything to do all day and you're just sitting around, you know, an idle mind, what is the saying, everybody? The idle mind is the devil's playground, or something like that. That's why it's very dangerous when you have high unemployment. That's why usually crime spikes when you have high unemployment, because people, they get desperate. They don't know what to do. They don't have anything to do all day. They're not at work, so they're out committing crimes. So I think with the drug problem is you got to provide alternatives. Right? You got to provide these people with something to do, a purpose, you know, solutions, resources to, you know, counseling or whatnot. I don't have all the answers, but there needs to be an alternative. And I think the alternative to fentanyl would be not having fentanyl in the country, right? And it's flooding over the southern border. So I think the first thing would be is to close that up, right? Stop all the, essentially the smugglers that are funneling fentanyl through the southern border, right? I think that would be the most logical thing to do. Ah, that's right, Deborah. This is idle hands are the devil's workshop. Got it. Yeah, I butchered that saying, but I think you guys understand the point. But yeah, I totally butchered that. This is Maria, which is a great restaurant, by the way. I know, John A says I carry Narcan in my vehicle now. That's good for you, man. I respect that a lot. All right, let's make this right by Alwyn Court, and then we'll head down. This is Central Park South now. Well, look, I think we covered a lot of topics today. We covered SMCI earnings, right? Supermicro Computer reported an earnings report today that absolutely blew the doors off of it. Beat and raise quarter yet again. Then we talked about the breaking news with Elon Musk's Neuralink. Now, for those of you who are just joining us, apparently Neuralink has had their first successful installation of that brain implant. So the chip is going to be implanted into the patient's brain. And according to Elon Musk and the Neuralink team, well, the patient is recovering nicely, actually, which is a huge plus. We talked about so much AI today. Then we gave a little bit of an outlook on Microsoft, ticker symbol MSFT. They will be reporting earnings tomorrow. The stock hit a new all-time record high today. And Alphabet will also be reporting earnings tomorrow as well. They hit a new all-time record high as well. Then we talked about Meta and Mark Zuckerberg's year of efficiency for 2023. The only thing we forgot to talk about tonight was Bitcoin, but we'll have to leave that for tomorrow's live stream. So just a quick announcement, everybody, we will be sending out the Behind the Street newsletter on Thursday. So our free financial newsletter will be sent out after the market closes this Thursday. If you want to sign up to receive that, just go ahead and scan the QR code on your screen or type !news, NEWS in the chat, and you can click the link to our Substack. We publish every other Thursday. If you enjoyed the live stream tonight, feel free to leave a like on the video, subscribe to the channel if you're new, and share the show with your friends. We go live every night starting at 8:30. So thanks so much for joining. Stay warm, and we'll see you right back here live tomorrow from New York City. Thank you to all of our moderators. Hawaii, I appreciate you. Austin City Limits, Dow, Western Mass Dave, Dale, check it out. Dream Machine, Stephanie, Troy Atman, DM, thank you so much. There's always a bull market somewhere. You just need to know where to look. I'll see everybody right back here tomorrow. Take care.